Yeah, man. Hold on for a minute. Let you get right for a minute, man. Checking my Facebook
Purchase
page
your tracks today.
and my Instagram page and my Snapchat page. We'll get it back.
See you flossing on Instagram, stay posting on Facebook.
It's the I See What You're Doing podcast. I'm Mr. I See What You're Doing, and as always, I see what you.
Is breaking the world because the world that exists cannot support America anymore. This isn't ideology, it's math. The post 1945 system was built when America produced, America manufactured, America exported. Today, America consumes, America borrows, America finances. The old order only works if the center is strong. It isn't. Trump understands something elites don't admit. The US can no longer afford to be the shock absorber of the world. So he's not trying to fix the system, he's trying to crash it on his terms. Every alliance he weakens, every institution he undermines, every trade rule he breaks. That's not madness. That's preemptive abandonment. Because when the system finally fails, and the country still playing by rules will collapse first. Trump wants America to be unpredictable, unanchored, uncommitted. Why? Because predictable empires get bled slowly. Unpredictable ones get paid quickly. This is why he hates multilateralism. Because multilateral systems force the strong to subsidize the weak. This is why he attacks NATO. Because NATO is an insurance policy America can't afford anymore. This is why he weaponizes tariffs. Because trade used to be mutual. Now it's leverage extraction. This is why he treats war zones like balance sheets. Because reconstruction is one of the last remaining profit pools. Here's the part nobody says. Trump isn't destroying the world, he's disconnecting America from the cost of holding it together. And that terrifies everyone, because deep down they know he's exposing a truth. The global order was never moral, it was affordable, and it isn't anymore. So Trump's strategy is simple. Break it fast, cash out leverage, let others carry the rubble. History won't remember him as a lunatic, it will remember him as the man who ended the illusion early. And that's why the world looks like it's burning, because it is.
Oh, man. Shit. And I wanted to believe that this was not true. But then for a long time, it's been so much chaos this first year of our president's presidency to where you begin to look at these type of topics and these type of videos and begin to question. What up, Brian? I need you on the show next week, man, if you with it. We're going to have topics like this. But anyway, whether or not this would be true would be a question. But I mean, when you look at the news and you look at the stories that's going on, then it kind of makes you go, is that really what's happening? I mean, global politics, the United States is everywhere. And everybody's situation, they've always been like, the United States has always been considered big brother, bailouts and sending money to other countries and invading countries. I mean, because we do that now. And I mean, normally you would think, man, that's bullshit. What they saying, the United States is the greatest country in the world. And I mean, that's up for debate, but let's just look at what's being said in the video. I mean, the United States has upheld everyone. Yes, sir. I got you. Boss man. I appreciate Ryan said he can't come on because the government controls his paycheck. I got you, bro. But I'm still waiting to send you that information from that first podcast. But as I was saying, what if this is true? What if we're looking at someone who sat long enough and determined that that's what the move is that's being made? We all know the secret, or the secret behind all of this stuff is a push for a one world government. And in order for you to have a one world government, you would almost have to destroy every government that exists in the world on each and every continent. You can't just rush into it. You have to do it strategically. We looking at Greenland and Venezuela and all of these countries that are deemed to be third world countries or smaller countries being invaded and stripped the resources. So, I mean, South America and America are both America, but you have a president for South America and you have a president for North America. Both of them are America, though. You see what I'm saying? Those type of things never cross our minds because we get caught up in busy days all the time. No one has a chance to sit down and really think about these things, because when you get to thinking about it, something else distracts you, and something else takes your mind off of the things that you should be focused on. A lot of us are focused on the wrong things. Me, I just have a knack for focusing on through bullshit. I can see through the weeds. You know, some of them get higher than the motherfucker, but I can see through the weeds. You know, tonight's episode isn't about one headline. It's about power moves when pressure hits. The court stepping into political space, the policing and accountability delays, the civil rights being reframed, the global instability, pushing people across borders, the technology quietly watching more than our lives, and now even proposals to redesign cities themselves. What we're really talking about is control. Who controls resources? Who controls access? Who controls definitions? Tonight, we're not picking sides. We're tracing power. So, with that being said, the first thing I wanted to touch on was how the Supreme Court expands its roles in national policy. This segment exists to explain the structural shift in America's governance that often goes unnoticed by the public. When elected branches avoid hard decisions, power does not disappear. It mitigates. Increasingly, that power moves into judiciary, reshaping public life through court rulings rather than public debate. What I'm saying here is that we would think that a lot of the decisions that the president has made by signing executive orders would have been taken care of by Congress and the Senate, and then by the president signing and saying that those bills and those laws look great, those bills and those laws make sense, and then he signs off on it. We know that there has not been a law in the first year of Donald Trump's presidency that has been passed. Most of it has been executive order, meaning the president seems to not have the power that sitting presidents prior to him, or that he had in his first term as president, which would make you think that the executive order supersedes the diplomatic process, the democratic process per se. The democratic process. So the overview of this story is that recent Supreme Court actions show judges deciding issues once handled through legislation, including civil rights enforcement, executive authorities, and regulatory powers. These decisions place lifetime appointed justices at the center of national policy, often with consequences that last a generation. It causes congressional gridlocks, court filings, political vacuums, lifetime appointments shaping culture, decisions insulated from elections. So what that means is that eventually there's going to come a time where with civil rights and the right to vote and all that being given to people through laws and legislation, those particular things will be pulled back from you. You won't be able to go out and vote anymore. You feel me? That's why the No Kings March happened, because you don't want you don't want somebody being the president or becoming a monarch in a country that's supposed to be the land of the free and the home of the brave, or everyone in this country is supposed to be free, because when you fall up under a monarchy, you are not free. That particular sitting that particular sitting monarch has the right to do whatever they want in that particular country because they rule over the country. And then once there's a monarchy set in place, then only that family is going to lord over the nation. You know, you hear things like the last president. You hear debates about a third term when never once in the history of politics there has been a president that has been in office for 3 terms, but there's a debate about whether it's possible. You've heard the debates about whether if I start a war, then as long as that war is going on, then there can't be any elections. And the Supreme Court knows that constitutionally that's not possible, but they're still willing to make judgments on it. And I don't know whether or not they have that authority, but they are still willing to make judgments on it. You know what I'm saying? Now, some supporters in this particular case argue that courts provide stability and constitutional clarity when politics fail, protecting rights from partisan swings. And so in that particular situation, when you look at that, let's just look at that part of the debate. Constitutional clarity. I thought the Constitution was already clear until we get this president, and then it all looks misconstrued. It all looks jumbled up. It all looks like you literally want to change history and the laws that this country has been operating under for years, even with the changes in civil rights, even with the changes in public policy. Something's good, some good, some bad. But for you to think that the court is supposed to start, it's supposed to provide stability on constitutional issues. When politics fail, is absurd to me because politics shouldn't fail. This is a democracy. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, whatever the case may be. Why else have senators and congressmen and governors and mayors and state representatives and all that if politics is failing? And then the question goes, why are politics failing? Because everybody has their own agenda. It's not one nation for all. It's not justice for all. It's whenever I decide that things are not going my way, I can go up and I can change the laws. Or me and my friends have been in so many sticky situations, so many unnecessary situations, and we have so many skeletons in our closet that I could just call on them and tell them, remember that thing you did back in 1972 or whenever the case may be. And they began to go and sway the crowd, move the government, cause government shutdown, want to change affordable health care. You know, some critics argue unelected judges resolving political questions undermines democratic accountability. Like I was saying, this is a democracy. Judges are voted into office. Some of them are appointed, but some at the local level and judges are voted in office. So they fall up under the democratic process. When you can choose, and I think that all judges should be elected to office. I think all of them should, because if not, you run into the type of situations that you have right now, where I'm going to choose my friends or people who agree with my agenda to be the judges, so that when I bring something up, the vote is always going to be yes, and I'm always going to get my way. Which is the perfect way, as the video started, for us to dismantle a world government system. By breaking down democracy. And that's where the trust in your local officials gets swayed, because I voted for you because you said you were going to do it this way. But when, like I said before, when you get up top to those particular avenues and then those particular offices, and you get behind those closed doors, the agenda changes. And I know the excuse is, hey, man, you can't change anything overnight. But some of you guys have been there 60, 70 years or more. And I'm exaggerating that, and nothing's changed. Nothing's changed. We can look at our government and see that where we think that a few small things, a few small crumbs is a positive, and in time, it becomes a negative because it doesn't benefit the country as a whole. And that's the thing that gets sold to you. That we're going to go and we're doing what's best for the country. But I heard the president say there's going to come a time and where those particular elected officials are going to feel like they're making decisions. They have to make decisions for you and do what's best for you. And as adults in involving human beings, because we evolve every day, we don't get a chance to have our voices heard because we're looked at as lesser than, and we don't have the ability to make decisions for ourselves. Let alone, we don't even try to look behind the curtain to see that what's being told to us is true. And from a research standpoint, all the great thinkers in the world, all the intelligent people that have high school degrees and all of those things in this world that have the ability to think for themselves, critical thinking abilities are not using those critical thinking abilities in the right manner. Okay? And the struggle is we have midterms coming up, and a lot of us probably don't know who's running, what their agendas is. If you know who's running, I know there's fear amongst Democrats and Republicans about who's going to win the House and the Senate. And I'm spending a whole lot of time on this particular subject, so I'm going to push it along. But I just want to go through a couple of more things. You may say, what's the pro behind that? Judicial intervention can prevent chaos during political deadlocks and provide consistent interpretation of law. Courts may also protect majority rights ignored by majoritarian politics. A con for that is as courts assume policy-making roles, citizens lose influence over outcomes, decisions feel distant and irreversible, and there's a weakening in democratic trust. Why does that matter? Court rulings shape laws for decades. When judicial powers expands unchecked, democracy becomes procedural rather than participatory. And in my personal viewpoint, when judges start deciding what voters can and can no longer vote on, it signals a system that's breaking upstream. So in this particular case, we could possibly be looking at our government becoming more weaker than strengthened. As I look into my hourglass, I had a couple of more things. So I had 9 segments here. I'm going to jump to the next segment because I wanted to talk about this one here I brought up last week. Civil rights. Civil rights being reframed as cultural war issues. Okay. This segment explains how civil rights are being redefined for legal protection into ideological battleground during periods of economic stress and cultural anxiety. So what that means in a nutshell is we're looking at civil rights being reshaped and used as a tool to speak to the unfairness and the disparities in race. My problem with that is that if there's a disparity in racial issues, uh, it's being portrayed in the wrong manner. We all know uh, why civil rights came along. I told you uh, last week, civil rights came along because everybody wasn't being treated fairly. And then you hear a president that says uh, white people were being mistreated because black people were given civil rights. Speak to affirmative action says that affirmative action was given so that white women could work and leave the home. And then it included everyone else. This misconception to all of the civil rights and all that is that black people receive civil rights and then everybody else was included. And that's not the case. That's when you find diversity, equity, and inclusion being taken away should not form a negative thought, because none of this stuff, whether they tell you it was or it wasn't, was set up for black people to have anything other than be kept down up under the foot of an American government that shows racism and one-sided on levels that we haven't ever seen before. And right now, as this president comes out and he's in office right now, and I'm not speaking to every white person, I'm just telling you, there's a racism is at a high point now in this country, just like it was at our president's first term. And the thing with that is, in between that, when Joe Biden was president, whether you agree with it or not, racism could have still been prevalent, but I mean, the public displays of racism were not as prevalent as they are now. My story overview on this is that civil rights protections are increasingly framed as special treatment rather than safeguards, shifting public perception away from historical exclusions and towards resentment. Why would you hate giving someone their just dues? Let's stop right there for a minute, and I'm going to go into some. Civil rights was created as protection. Civil rights was created as protection. Guardrails meant to ensure access after generations of exclusion. Today, the same protections are increasingly framed as special treatment or identity politics. This reframing doesn't come from proof that civil rights failed. It comes from economic anxiety, cultural backlash, and political strategy. Right? Now, when opportunities shrink, frustration gets redirected away from systems towards visual protection. Historically, every expansion of civil rights has been followed by backlash. Reconstruction gave way to Jim Crow. The Civil Rights Movement gave way to law and order politics. The Voting Rights Act gave way to new voting restrictions. Supporters of reframing argue that fairness requires neutrality. That policy should be combined and equal for all. And that policy should be colorblind and equal for all. Critics counter that neutrality ignores history and the civil rights, correct exclusion rather than create an advantage. And then civil rights don't disappear overnight. They erode through language, court rulings, funding cuts, and enforcement rollbacks. When rights become negotiable, they become removable. So, right here in this particular thought, civil rights does not exclude anyone. It never did. It never calls for anyone to be treated unfairly. Civil rights never calls for anyone to be treated negatively, unless you consider the people that was fighting for the civil rights and wanted to be included. who was just asking for the same rights, God-given rights that immigrants that came from other countries to this country were getting, above the people who live here in this country that wanted to just be seen as people and give them the same opportunity and the land of opportunity and the fair shake. Considering that when you decide to say that civil rights cause problems in other races and not for Black people, and I get it, it does cause exclusion at some point, but I'm talking about you really don't want to come to the barbecue. Because historically we use barbecue, but I'm talking about who? Do you know what the real history of barbecue is? And if you ever consider the idea to be accurate, that civil rights cause exclusion, then you're living. I don't know where you've been. I don't know where you've been. And again, I go back and tell you, the push to erase history out of history books that outlines the torture and the tragedy and the mistreatment and discrimination and segregation and raping and the killing of children and the outright savagery that comes along before civil rights. Remember, civil rights led the way for Jim Crow. Civil rights led the way for law and order politics, water hoses and dogs. Civil rights led the way for the Voting Rights Act. And the Voting Rights Act really included, was restructured because the original Voting Rights Act didn't even include Black people. It was just white men and white women. And then immigrants that were not considered to be white, because the majority of the immigrants that come to this country don't identify as Europeans of the country they come from. The documentation that they get marks them down as being white people. And I don't have a problem with white people by no means. I don't. And just so we can be clear, I have multiple white friends, not just one white friend. And I mean, take that how you want to take it. All I'm saying is, if you make an argument about civil rights and say and want to speak to what race has been treated unfairly before and after civil rights, then you don't have to look that far. You don't have to look that far. Civil rights. It says civil rights. It's not a privilege. It's a right. It's not Black privilege, white privilege. It's a right. It's a human right, a civil right. Don't go look up what civil means, because I don't have to give you that. We all been to school before. We know what it looks like. But to turn it into a weapon and take and grandstand on the idea that civil rights has become a weapon geared towards other races or any race is asinine and absurd. Get your dictionary out, because I can't spit that kind of verbiage. But to think that you would take and you would weaponize civil rights and use it in the manner that is being used right now, only to be a tool to try to reverse history and the things that have been done, to try to move this country forward to a utopian state, maybe not a utopian state, but a place that's somewhat fair to everyone, right? That's absurd and asinine. And if you're ever going to be realistic in this particular country or in the world, you're going to have to come to terms with the fact that some of the things that you get behind and some of the things that you believe, you can't be offended by once it turns on you. I'm not telling you that civil rights has turned on. But what I'm saying is, when the chickens come home to roost, and that's a quote from Malcolm X in one of his speeches. When the chickens come home to roost, you have to collect your chickens. You know, you have to collect your chickens. When you reap what you sow, once you plant a seed and they grow, you have to reap that harvest. You get it? That's just how that is. You have to be able to take what you dish out. The fear is that something's coming that may never come. And all of the avenues that you go down and all of the tools that you use are to try to detour what's supposed to be coming from happening, even though you don't know whether it's going to happen or not. Some supporters argue and get behind Trump's idea that this is the right way to go. Oh yeah, we've been treated unfairly. And that's a smokescreen, because as much as if I point my fingers, remember, if I point my fingers at you, these three fingers are pointed back at me. So I may be more of a problem than I'm letting on. You get it? A pro for this is reevaluation can surface policy inefficiencies and encourage a public dialogue. So we should all be talking about this. This should be something that you should, when you out or you are out around the water cooler, you should be having these conversations. Not in a negative manner. I mean, don't go and be the type of person. Yeah, the president is right. Just logically think about what's being said, and then look at it and go, man, is that accurate? Is that correct? Is that really what's happening? Because I can remember the Head Start. I can remember the white only bathrooms and the white only restaurants and all of that. I can remember that type of stuff. And I can also remember that historically, Black people have never done that. All we've ever asked for was the opportunity to exist in the world. And if you hate, no one has ever. Amanda said, I think what most Americans want to know is, are we going to get blown up because of his politics? We are scared. Absolutely. And I appreciate that, Amanda, because I'm going to get to something later on. I'm trying to push through, but I get stuck on some of these because they're near and dear to my heart. So let me clarify something to you. Do I think that and I'm going to touch on Amanda's question right now, in my own opinion. In my own opinion, I believe that the final Hail Mary is to create a war in this country so that our president, the president now, can be the president. You know, we see the video where he does not know that that's possible. And then when he finds out, I think his statement was, that's cool. Yeah. So are we all going to get blown up? I can't say that we all going to get blown up. And I'm not spilling any kind of fear or nothing to you, but I mean, you may want to get with a doomsday prepper or something like that. I saw a story that kind of interested me. I'm still researching it, but they got underground bunkers and stuff. And if you see that, then you begin to ask a question: what are those particular underground bunkers and things for? Then, and if no one's anticipating something to happen, then should there be a need for an underground bunker, right? So when protection gets called privilege, history tells us where that road leads. So history will tell you that there's more money made off of wars than anything. And that if you want to claim land that's not really supposed to be yours, then you know, here we go. You start a war. If you want to continue to be the president of the United States for as long as you can, you declare a state of emergency. If you want to reshape a government, you cause chaos, because then the people begin to ask for help. They begin to ask someone to come and save them. They begin to cry for a savior. They begin to ask for a king, someone who can detour the thing. You feel me? I believe that our president is one of the great agitators in the world. That's my personal opinion. I also believe that there should be a limit on how long you stay in office, and there should be a limit on an age limit on you being able to become president. If we just changing the Constitution around, someone who's over 80, and I'm not going against. I'm not talking about ages. You could be a hell of a grandfather, or a hell of a businessman at 80, but these are politics that we're talking about. And you can't define politics by age, and you can't determine who's more experienced by age. What you need in this country is someone who's optimistic enough and sound-minded enough to look at everything from a neutral standpoint and decide what's best for everyone. Not what's best for black people, not what's best for white people, what's best for the American people. And when you consider what's being said, if you're not doing what's best for the American people, then that means you're singling out certain individuals as being Americans and everybody else not being American. That's where ICE comes in with importation and everything, and they're grabbing people who were born in this country. Yeah. But on another note, while we're doing that, that would affect you mentally, if you will. And if it affects you mentally, then you go into a downward spiral because your mental health is affected. Right? Of course. So, with that being said, I'm cutting into my time. I want to get back into some other things, but let's just go to Greenland, because I heard I got some information that a couple of different countries landed in Greenland. One of them being Germany. And when Germany landed, they put on their social media page that they had landed in Greenland. And Trump came through and put up a terror zone on Germany on cars. And 44 minutes later, Germany was out of there. And a deal was struck with Great Britain. That's not in my notes. I mean, I'm just telling you. Before I come on here, I always check back and I always get information. And I won't divulge that. I won't tell you that source. Just know that he's close by. And he always has information. U.S. and Greenland, strategic partnership or pressure politics? First, I would say that it was pressure politics. You know, that's where I would go with it. Pressure politics at first. You know, the story is about an effort for the U.S. to expand its influence into Greenland. It does raise questions about consent, pressure, and politics. That's why the title of it was U.S. and Greenland Partnership of Pressure. Right? Trump says it's for security interests. It's a strategic spot where you can put a military base just in case a war does break out. Do I agree with that? Absolutely. Do I agree with the politics and the annex about getting Greenland? Absolutely not. You know, because we know that Denmark already has Greenland. So if you're making a deal, you're not talking to the right people. You can't just go into someone's territory and just take over. That's like Russia going to Puerto Rico, and in the United States is Puerto Rico is United States territory. You know, some supporters argue that involvement in Greenland strengthens defense. And some critics argue that pressure undermines sovereignty, right? So whoever the person is, or whatever the country is that's over Greenland, the negotiations are not being done properly. It's just bully ball. It's just bully politics. It's if you don't give it to us, we're going to take it from you, right? It does strengthen our Arctic security posture. It does do that. But it also strains alliances and marginalizes local voices. So we definitely we're in the place with Greenland where we can look like super villains, like the Legion of Doom, per se, that we don't do business with Greenland and Denmark properly. I mean, if they say, yeah, you can have it, sell it to the United States or whatever, yeah, but it doesn't sound like that's what's happening. What it sounds like is the president that's being a bully over over this smaller country, right? Why does that matter to you guys? Because the Arctic is emerging as a major power frontier. Plus, there's resources. I mean, I heard that there's a untapped water source under that stretches from New Jersey to Maine, a fresh water source that has never been tapped before. So can you imagine the type of resources that are in Greenland? I mean, we already went to Argentina and got the oil. I mean, Venezuela and got the oil. We sent 40 billion to Argentina, which I think that was like a partnership to buy a part of the country or something. That's just my opinion. In a nutshell, my opinion, a partnership built on pressure isn't a partnership. That's little brother getting punked by big brother. Little brother getting punked by big brother. That's the school bully picking on the weakest, who they deem to be the weakest person in class. That's the 200-pound jock shoving the nerd into a locker. That's what we're looking at, in my opinion. Brian said, I think if you're Greenland, you have to ask yourself, do we want an American base or a Russian base in our country? Because one is coming. Um, I believe it's going to be an American base, right? I'm almost certain it's going to be an American base. It's just how the American base gets there. You know, I just feel like it should be done the right way. If you present your case and it makes sense, then hey, you know, it kind of looked like to me that the superpower America that we are used to uh, is losing its grip on its superpower status. I mean, for God's sakes, we try to travel, and some countries don't even want us in their country. Passport or not, they don't want us in their country. We can't get the visas. Our passport doesn't matter. None of that stuff matters. When at one point you can travel to go wherever you want. Now you got travel bans, and you got travel alerts, and you got American citizens in other countries being murdered and killed, and reporters being snatched up and losing their lives and stuff, all because of who they're associated with. And the goal to me would be to try to reestablish some some positive relationships with these countries, man. I mean, unless we picking sides right now, and if we picking sides right now, God be with us all, because picking and choosing anybody and putting together military strategies and all of that means that the people that we have running these countries, egos are so big that they can't get along. They can't come to they can't come to understanding without throwing tantrums like little kids. We teach our kids how to get along with each other, but the people who run our country don't get along. Whew. Okay, man. I was going to go front and back, but there was some stuff that happened in Switzerland, and I'm coming to the close. There was some things happening in Switzerland, man. California Governor Gavin Newsom was on his way to the forum in Switzerland, and he was not able to get in. Our president had banned one of the governors that run one of the states in our country. He banned him from economic forum. And in that, and I'm still trying to figure out how. If you're trying to show strength in America, wouldn't it behoove you to not argue amongst yourselves, because you're only as strong as your weakest link? And if you wanted to show strength in America and unity in America, don't you go out and eat and present yourself as a unified front? Even if you're not, you want to give the appearance that you're a unified front. Because once the thing breaks down and the rest of the world know it's broken down, then who has to respect that? I've always learned that a house divided can't stand. The house is divided. The house is divided. And if that's the case, then we are doomed. And if that's the case, then you should probably prepare yourself for what comes next. Now, it's a strike against the influence that a California governor should have when he goes out of the country as a representative of the United States in the country that he governs. It's a strike against his influence, Because if people outside of this country respect him, and the president is holding him back from an economic forum, then it shows that the house is divided. It's silencing a man who has a voice, just taking his voice away because you don't want him to speak because he does not agree with everything that you have to say. Right? It limits discourse and perspective. So we look at it and we would think that influence today is often determined by invitation. So our president is stripping this man of his influence on the world. His influence if he decides to go run for president. Giving the man's reputation a black eye because they don't see eye to eye on politics. Right? So in a nutshell, if you control access, you control the conversation. The president is going to keep this man from these particular forums, and in turn, he's going to be able to have all the influence and be able to give his opinion and say what happened without Gavin Newsom being able to defend himself on the world level. Now, last but not least, and I got a few minutes, but I can't stay here long. I just want to give you an idea. I was on the phone with one of my friends. He works for community health. And it was brought to my attention that in the wee hours of the morning, I believe it was Monday or Tuesday, our president your show is amazing. Brian said your show is amazing. How do you get around FCC and government shutting this down? That's a secret. That's a secret, sir. It's a secret. I can't tell you that. I can't tell you. Just know that if you know, and only a few know, hey man, it's I see what you're doing, man. That's what all I can say is, Brian. I see what they doing. I come and tell you what they doing, man. And I just happen to be with. I happen to be on the umbrella that allows me to be able to say what the fuck I want and do what I want to do. You feel me? And I mean, sheesh, I'm living it, man. I'm loving it. So he pulled $2 billion away from Health and Human Services program, and then sent out termination letters. A lot of people lost their jobs until that particular order was pulled back. Now, when I say health and human services, that's homelessness, that's addiction, that's mental health. There's a lot of things that fall up on the health and human services, right? You got to remember, that's social services. Like I said, mental health, that's healthcare. This is the president who's saying he's trying to create something better, healthcare wise, while he's pulling the money from healthcare services. You get it? Ooh, man. It's going to destabilize essential services if they allow for that to happen. Right? It does cause for a review of spending priorities, but it's going to destabilize the essential services that people need. Veterans, drug addicts. It's not going to affect the elite. It's going to affect regular, everyday people. And that's the crazy thing. It looks like an attack on regular, everyday people. Public health failures began quietly and then they spread. That's why it was done at night. It was done while politicians, congressmen, senators, they were asleep. Cutting health support doesn't reduce need. It shifts pain. It puts pressure on regular, everyday people who depend on these services in the country where you take taxes and all of that from people's paychecks. And then you begin to utilize that money for unnecessary stuff like $40 billion to a country who is not an American territory or anything. Right? Some supporters argue fiscal discipline. Critics argue human cost. I say it's a bunch of bullshit either way. So there you are at the end of a podcast that went and talked about a few things. What we covered tonight wasn't random. It was a map. We started with courts because when lawmakers stop leading, judges start deciding. The Supreme Court isn't stepping into culture by accident. It's being pulled there by political paralysis. When democracy slows down, the law speeds up. We talked about policing and accountability, and our investigation stretches on while families wait. The delay isn't neutral. It's a system protecting itself. Justice doesn't always get decided overnight or outright. Sometimes it just gets postponed long enough for people to stop asking. We looked at how civil rights are being reframed, not as protections, but as privileges. When equality starts sounding like special treatment, history is being rewritten in real time. And whenever rights become conditional, they become removed. We widen the lens on global instability, wars, economic collapse, and political repression, pushing people across borders. Those pressures don't stay overseas. They show up in housing, jobs, elections, and fear. Global problems don't respect national boundaries, no matter how high the wall is. We talked about technology and surveillance, how convenience slowly trades away privacy, and how safety becomes the justification for constant monitoring. Control today doesn't always look like force. Sometimes it looks like efficiency. And then we went further to the idea of freedom cities. Cities marked as innovation, but built on deregulation. Freedom promised without accountability. And the real question isn't whether they can build it or whether it can be built, it's who they're building it for. We stepped into the Arctic where Greenland became the latest reminder that power politics really never disappeared. They just got quieter. Securities, partnerships, tariffs, pressures, all aimed at the place whose people keep saying the same thing. We are not for sale. When great powers compete, local voices are usually the first ignored. And then we come back home to public health, where funding gets pulled instead of problems being fixed. Cutting resources doesn't shrink a need. It just shifts the pain to the people least able to absorb it. Public health fails quietly until it doesn't. And we close with access. Who gets a seat at the table and who gets sidelined? When leaders are excluded from global spaces, it sends a message without saying a word. Influence today isn't about elections. It's about invitation. So what's the thread? When systems are under pressure, they don't reform, they consolidate. They pull funding, they restrict access, they shift decisions to courts, they delay accountability, they reframe the rights, they monitor more, they redesign space, they apply pressure abroad. Not
www.enter-effect.com for more info, beats, and designs. These beats available for $30 and exclusively starting at $100.